Greetings, my fellow philosophical thinkers. L3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Mango, South Florida, and today's date is Wednesday, August 1st, 2018. So let us begin. Yes, it's such a beautiful day right now, pretty nice and warm as usual, and I'm at Stash, located at 109 Southwest 2nd Avenue in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, adjacent with America's Backyard and Revolution Live. Yes, little crowd out here, just shit kicking back, being busy, and I'm just doing my thing as usual. But one thing is really intriguing is when you got a lot of folks out there trying to believe they're right, they're wrong. You hear all these hype up words and rhetoric, and one of the things that really turned me off is just like the train coming by. One moment. Traditional bright line as usual. There's a big report on that the Coast Guard may be investigating that old style tracks that goes up the bridge, because every time it comes through here, there's always a complaint about the delays of the boats and so forth. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And it's real terrible what's going on in California with the fires and rain and all that. There's a thing called flamenados or firenados. They're like, tornadoes like twisted with the fire itself. That's really pretty damn scary if you look at it. They go pretty high according to some of the reports I got. Hope folks out there, hey, I want you to be safe. It's really insane what's going on out in those areas. And every time it's summertime in those western part of the United States, so it's always dry seasons and all that. It's good amount of forest fires. Sometimes it's negligence by individuals, other times by lightning storms. Please, you folks, be safe out there. There's even talk about some major earthquakes supposed to be hitting the California coastline anytime soon, based on some of the geologists. I was reading a story about that last week. One thing you always got to do, friends, you got to pay attention what's in your surroundings. Don't get too distracted on what's occurring around you, because everyone's focused on one area and you forget what's the rest of the, I would say, issues in your community and beyond. That's why I don't go around playing anxiety and Trump worshiping. That's just an example. Remember, the human beings are not your Lord and Savior. I'd be a little sarcastic at times as well. So maybe another time I will in this persona. So, all right, well, I talk about the big buzzwords that's happening. Medicare for all. You see a lot of these people and folks are running for Congress and Senate, all doing this on this bandwagon. Medicare for all, and people behind them with the picket signs and the climaxing on social media. Great for all, for every single one of us. Well, it'll be entitled Medicare for All. And don't believe the hype. That is a fact. So we're going to be talking about that and a few other things. California burns. We'll talk about that. Past that. So another thing too is real disturbing. More people are living in their vehicles around the United States. And it's effing disturbing for sure. It's not even capitalism, my friends. It's a form of neo-mercantilism we see out there. And that's why these kids go, capitalism, because they listen to the bobblehead. They get caught up on the face value, but not the fine print. Right off of Edward Bernays' propaganda playbook. They all became political experts in these areas. In reality, they're not. Study the history, how banks and governments go hand in hand. You'd be infuriated a lot more with it. So there's even a report from Mises Institute talking about England weaponized the Bank of England, British government. Why is that? Burn get those people for trees, their own country, for goodness sakes. And of course, I was seeing an article a couple of days ago about 450 Floridians ordered to give up their guns because what happened? A horrific event. But they don't want to talk about the laws that failed. And of course, they was talking, even there's in the books that, you have to get a rifle now at 21. Totally unconstitutional because you have to be voted on by the people of Florida. And I can say that for a fact because I voted against the 3-day waiting period in 1988 for the handguns and the local options in 98. Yes, it's got to be in the Florida Constitution. But Article 12 don't count. And all the idiots that voted for this bill that had that particular language officially breached their oath, rather Democrat, Republican. Yes, I talk about Gary Moranis, a Republican House guy in my district, and big mouth Senator Gary Farmer Jr., I think his name is. Yeah, Farmer Jr. wants a parade, wants to get rid of all these other firearms because it's unsafe for us, but the government knows best. When there comes their stupidity, the people have to be punished. So, I am going to be talking about that and why it is considered null and void, unconstitutional, and I'm not afraid to call out these clowns, including Flip-Flop Rick Scott. He wants to run against his sidekick, Bill Nelson. Please. Talk about walking antimatter on parade. Battle of the freedom-hating saps, I would say. Yeah, I've been actually looking at some of the people who run for Congress, and I'm not too pleased from both sides. You got Ted Deutsch, you got Navis, and a few other guys. They all want to put their hearts and soul to Israel. Which is I'm not being anti-Semitic, but I'll tell you one thing. John Jay is rolling in his grave once again. If you read Fellows Papers 2 through 5, you understand where I'm coming from. And that's it. It's not being anti-Semitic, it's just the jank truth. So, without further ado, let us begin, shall we? Alright. We'll just start off right with Medicare for All is the government's license to kill. It's by Bob Livingston. So I'm going to do the first two from the Livingston letter. Great stuff, man. And they're not partisan bias, okay? Let's read what it says here. The latest buzzword of political left is Medicare for All. Medicare for All is a new name for single-payer health insurance, which was the new name for socialized medicine. It's Obamacare on steroids. Medicare for All is being championed by socialist communist politicians like Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and the wonder kind from New York, self-avowed Democratic Socialist nominee for the House of Representatives from New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yay! Under the plan proposed by Sanders, Medicare eligibility would expand over 4 years to transfer everyone slowly over to government-run health insurance. In the first year, people aged 55 and older, as well as those younger than 18, would become eligible for Medicare. The second year eligibility would extend to people older than 45, and then to people older than 35 in year 3. By year 4, everyone should be eligible for Medicare. Government, please take care of my health. Government, will you please tell me how to wipe my rear end? That's what comes down to it. Privileges for all. Idea of something for free is always attractive to unthinking people who do not realize there is no free lunch. And politicians love to sell the idea of something for free when they're trolling for votes as such. Since Sanders introduced his plan, the leading lights in the Democrat Party, and those most suspected for dangling for the Democratic nomination in 2020 have signed on. These include Democrats Senators Elizabeth Warren, Brian Schatz, Kristen Gillibrand, Cory Booker, Mazie Hirono, Kamala Harris, Edward Mackey, Jeff Merkley, Tammy Baldwin, Sheldon Whitehouse, and Richard Blumenthal. BSers on parade. Move back. Like the Pied Pipers. Come on, my little rats, follow me to Wonderland. It's study funded by the quasi-libertarian Koch brothers and conducted by the Mercatus Center at George Mason University found the plan would increase government spending on healthcare by $32.6 trillion over 10 years. It is therefore unsustainable without massive money printing by the government. God bless the Federal Reserve, right? It is just another massive scheme to transfer the wealth from the producers to government parasites. Several states have discovered that universal health care by government is a fiscal impossibility. In other words, a wet dream. Vermont, a wealthy state with the second lowest uninsured rate in the country, found that even with the federal infusion of Obamacare, subsidies to the state payroll taxes would have to be increased by 11.5%, and individual income tax rates would have to increase by 9%. This led Governor Peter Sholem, who campaigned on the plan and signed it into law, to ultimately scrap it because it was unwise and unattainable. Voters in Colorado rejected a plan for a statewide single-payer government insurance program because their proponents admittedly law-above figure would require a tripling at least of the state's income tax rates. What beyond is cost for Medicare for All is a trap designed to force Americans into a socialized system of medicine which limited choices and limited resources that benefits only the medical industrial establishment, and that means getting rid of the elderly and infirm before they become drains on the system. Suck them in, put them in the, line them up like cattle. In Great Britain, which has government-run health care for years, the Supreme Court just ruled that patients can be starved to death without consent or even without a court order. In other words, when the medical system and the patient's family agree that the person's quality of life has deteriorated and there is a little hope for recovery, that person can be euthanized by starvation and dehydration. God save the Queen. A fascist regime. There is no future. In England, screaming. That's right. Sex Pistols tune to be exact, right? This would effectively end prolonged court fights over the state's efforts to murder people, as we saw two recent cases where the state sought to murder two children, Charlie Gard and Alfie Evans. In Sweden, Minister of Social Affairs Annika Strandhäll recently told the newspaper Aftonbladet that the country's elderly are overloading in country's healthcare system, responding to claims that the healthcare system, which is seeing such a backlog that patients are waiting so long for surgeries that they literally start to rot, was overrun by unchecked immigration. Strandhäll said, "That is not true. That is not true. We have rapidly aging population in Sweden. Life expectancy increased by 3.5 hours a day, and we have a larger number of chroniclers with lifelong relationship with healthcare today than 30 years ago." According to Strandhäll, the number of people aged older will increase by 300,000 by 2025. That is the big problem. When the government is in charge of your health care, the government decides what treatments you have or can have. This is the end of medical freedom. If government is controlling the money, government will decide the treatment modalities that are approved and therefore allowed. And when you become a non-producing drain on the system, you must be removed in the public interest and for the good of society. Yes, you are not a human being. You're a governmental number, a whore bag, or other words, the system's demonade. Non-productive consumers are defined as all retired people, all terminally ill, all unborn children, which through prenatal diagnostic techniques can be shown to fatal metabolic disorders and who have been in accidents, leaving them non-productive consuming dependents. Dr. Benjamin Rush was the founding father who signed the Declaration of Independence, served as a Surgeon General in the Continental Army, and attended the Continental Congress. He predicted unless we put medical freedom to the Constitution. The time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privileges to others. The Constitution of the Republic should make a special privilege for medical freedoms as well as religious freedoms. So, my friends, Benjamin Rush warned us about this. See, you never talk about the founding fathers were slaves and all that. You know what? They had better foresight than all those rhetorical bobbleheads we hear right now. These wannabe activists, these posers, fashion models, that all talk out of their rear end because they never take the initiative on learning. I'm still doing it today, my friends. I'm learning every day, and you should too. And I'm not saying this out of arrogance, but in good faith. We're almost there now. We're almost there now under Obamacare, or the fascistic health care, Affordable Care Act, unaffordable to be exact. But just as the state can deny you certain procedures when it controls health care, it can also mandate them. This week, results of an experiment conducted by scientists at the Johns Hopkins Center for Global Health and Security in Baltimore, Maryland were released. Using computer models, researchers determined that a pandemic from, as yet discovered, flu-like viruses could wipe out nearly 1 billion people if it started tomorrow. This is because researchers said the vaccine regime could not produce enough vaccines to stem the contagion. The message behind this bit of big pharma propaganda was that more money needed to be spent to increase the capacity of the World Health System to formulate, manufacture, and distribute vaccines. There is already a move afoot for the federal government to mandate the vaccine schedule currently approved and necessary for children to attend government schools and universities. For children, when government controls health care, then vaccines will be required. Population control lies at the heart of socialized medicine, and forced vaccination is step one in population control. God bless eugenics. God bless involuntary servitude. Vaccine introduced foreign agents into the body that gastate for years before their deleterious effects show up, separating cause and effect. The people are none the wiser. Abortion and euthanasia are step two, and they are needed to eliminate the non-producers from society. Eugenics, my friend. Right what it says at the Stone Mountain, Georgia. The Georgia Guidestone. Tell you all about it. People ask how such a thing can happen. It stems from a death cult that does not value life, or at least a certain life. The elites believe all people are equal, but some are more equal than others. Dying under pretense of sickness care is more benevolent than dying by a firing squad. Sickness care, under all pretenses, is benevolent. It is not possible for many Americans to identify sickness care with death. Firing squads and death chambers cost the system money. On the other hand, imagine how much the medical system stands to profit from sickness care in America. So when you hear, folks, Medicare for all is saying, we want to kill you parasites. We want to kill you SOBs. That's what they're saying. I'm going to have to go out and chat with some of these people who are running for office and ask them that. So you support government's license to kill, sir? You don't want, you're going to stand your ground, but you want the government to kill us instead. Ain't that astute? That's right. They know who they are. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I know many puffs, some men may hear my show. Hey, send it to these people. Please. That'll be great. I would deeply appreciate it. I like to see these folks get offended. Remember, when government knows best, it turns to shite. Plain and simple. All you gotta do is study the history, how government tried to solve problems. One way or the other, right? Multiple falters, fallacies, or complete things. That's why, my friends, we gotta learn to take care of our health. Learn natural medicine. I know many of the homeopathic doctors are being murdered, including my own state of Florida. That's the war on medicine, my friend. Don't fall for this propaganda matrix. If you do, you can just say, "Long live Jim Jones, my Lord and Savior. Follow your leaders." That's what King Jacob said. All right. I made you that song. I might do that song. I'll see what happens. See what mood I'm in. Yeah, I may do it. Cool. So we'll hit another one here from Bob Livingston's Alerts, which I gotta say is another great article. By Brandon Smith. Banned from social media? Here's what conservatives can do about it. The past 2 years, we have seen a rather aggressive change in corporate policies toward the very customers they used to convey. In the past, corporate heads tended to keep their political views mostly in the closet. Companies remained publicly neutral because their goal was first and foremost to make money. When they wanted to influence politics or social norms, they bought politicians. That's right. Campaign contributions, exactly. You know, the good old-fashioned way the big banks still do this by funneling cash to both Republicans and Democrats alike. Yeah, look at the stuff what Goldman Sachs did, especially in this past election, 2 elections, all right, in the presidential level. However, in the wake of the social justice cult frenzy, some companies have decided that ideology is more important than profit, and that most of these companies are deeply involved in media. Sorry about that. Some people argue that the media has always been leftist in its orientation, and that trend is nothing new. But I think it is clear to anyone who has worked in countering the mainstream media disinformation that something is very different today. Conservatives are being cleansed from participation in these communications platforms, and conservative ideas are being erased or misrepresented on a massive scale. Not long ago, media companies at least pretend to be fair and balanced by tolerating a certain level of participation by conservatives. No longer. With the advent of the internet and social media, participation in political discussion has become more important to the common citizen than ever before. It is apparently an intolerable side effect that corporate elite would like to do away with. It's a slightly complex problem, so I'll try to break it down point by point. First, companies like Facebook and Twitter are not honest in the presentation of their own image. They depict themselves as bastions of social commerce without any interest in ideological battles. If they had come right out in the open and admitted they are running their platforms based on social justice lunacy, then perhaps conservatives would have not bothered to join in the first place. Then Facebook and others could keep their forms ideological pure without misleading people. Second, with these companies to have standards of behavior and rules for participants. The rules are deliberately broad and vaporous. They claim their rules focus on more apparent behaviors like overt racism, but then go on to define almost everything that they disagree with as a racist. Exactly. Hot air, as usual. This includes most conservative viewpoints and arguments. Therefore, it appears that social media corporations want to fool as many people as possible into joining that platform, get them addicted to participation, and then companies want to have the option of controlling those people's behaviors through fear of losing access. Absolutely. I see this all the time. And I love one of those. I see these hot air comments. They all become political experts, right? But you happened in 2016. The people never got into it until that year, and they all think they know something. But I will proceed. Third, while this is clear ideological zealotry, social media websites are also private property. They can invite people in, and they can ask people to leave anytime they wish. If conservatives are going to argue in favor of private property rights and voluntary participation rights, they must include private websites with this. So then, what is the solution? Some will claim that social media giants represent a public utility rather than private property, and that they should be subjected to regulation by government in terms of political discrimination. I disagree. Giving government even more intrusive powers into how businesses function from day to day is not the answer. Allowing government to indiscriminately label a business, a website, a public utility is essentially nationalization of private property. Something very common in communist countries, but a habit that should be avoided in America. We need less government, less bureaucracy, not more. And conservatives need to remember that while leftists present a constant annoyance, it is big government that remains the ultimate threat to individual freedom. They may start with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. But where does it stop? How long before government is enforcing participation rules on all websites? How long before conservative websites are required to allow leftist trolls to rampage through their forums without any recourse to remove them? How long before government shifts over to the side of the aisle and conservatives start kicking themselves for the passing laws and that they use against them? That said, there are some issues about corporations in general that need to be addressed. For example, some corporations are not normal businesses. Corporations only exist because of government charter, like the protections like limited liability. This is where hardcore anarcho-capitalists tend to go wrong in their rapid defense of corporations and monopolies. Open free market, not monopolistic or state form of capitalism. And all you folks that are any capitalists, you better learn those details and explain it with more clarification, because you put your foot in your mouth all the time, frequently as well. Facebook has received considerable government aid. For years, Facebook has been offered special tax breaks to the extent, in some cases, that they have avoided taxes to the IRS altogether. And all you folks are worried about Donald Trump? Show me how many small business owners get that kind of treatment from the government. Facebook has a lot of intrusive data mining operations, including government operations and corporate operations, to spy on its users, and has so far suffered little consequences beyond a slap on the wrist. Facebook has maintained partnership with foreign entities considered national security threats to the U.S. This doesn't mean that companies like Facebook should be nationalized in terms of public utilities in a socialist free-for-all. But it does mean that corporations should not exist in the form that they do today. I would first advocate for the end of the legal protections afforded under corporate personhood. When a company like Facebook is sued or prosecuted for its trespasses and criminality, the company itself is treated if it is a legal person. Mark Zuckerberg and his ilk are not punished. The company is punished. It usually ends in fines, which amount nothing more than pocket change. Here's one thing you gotta look at too. Mark Zuckerberg was an attendee at the Bilderberg Group. Please, folks, look it up. Don't just take my word for it. Under Adam Smith's model of free markets, corporations or joint stock companies, as they were called in the day, were not acceptable. As mentioned, they are not a functional of free markets. Partnerships are, though. Reducing corporations down to partnerships and removing corporate welfare and government protections will go a long way in solving the dangers of business elites and their control of entire swaths of public communication, among many others. This is why I'm also a proponent of the breakup of corporate monopolies. If a corporation aided by a government in numerous ways becomes so large and influential that the free market competition, what that company is impossible, and it should be broken up by government into separate competing companies, so there is more incentive to keep customers rather than discriminate against them. This is just one solution of the problem of social media outlets that are attempting to cut one half of the American public. If a breakup of monopolies is not possible, if one of the companies is separated into competing parts and these parts still cling to ideological zealotry rather than pursuing sound business practices, then it's up to conservatives themselves to create an alternative. That's right. I'm saying it's time for conservative or true material like Facebook, conservative Twitter, and conservative YouTube, etc. More government domination of business is not an option. It is certainly not conservative in spirit. What's conservative in spirit is industry and self-reliance. I see no reason why conservative or neutral Social media outlet will not be financially successful as long as it's not interfered with by government. If the system is not offering a necessity or service, or is restricting a necessity or service, then it's up to free people to provide a necessity or service for themselves instead of relying on others to do it for them. I do fear that the social justice aggression within corporations against conservatives is part of a larger and more subversive plan. If one study the leftist tactics of the socialist gatekeeper, Saul Alinsky, one will discover that they often use the strategy of harassing their enemies to elicit a vicious overreaction, meaning it may be the goal of the leftists or globalists. We have no loyalty to either to manipulate conservatives through their own anger. Conservatives are portrayed as evil and monstrous tyrants, or as dumb, mumbling bigots in most the current media. The social justice ideology is placed on a pedestal as an unassailable and untouchable in movies, television shows, and even commercials. It is treated as an absolute truth that cannot be questioned or debated. In the meantime, social media companies seek to gain vast market share of communication spaces and then reduce conservative presence there, so we cannot argue our side of the issues. I get it. There is every person for conservatives to be pissed off, but we need to look at the bigger picture. It is possible that the goal on one part of this company is not necessarily to merely silence conservative voices on their forum, to slander us in ridiculous misrepresentations. It could be that they hope we will become enraged and they will respond by abandoning our own principles to attack them back. They want us to become the monsters that they are portraying us as. If we win, we lose. I have already outlined examples of how we can fight back without breaking our own ideas and morals. The fight is not just over modes of communication, it is over conscience and identity. The latter cannot be sacrificed to obtain the former. And Mr. Smith is absolutely correct. That's why I hear these people complain about Facebook and privacy and all that. Yeah, we got to look at the contract, read it up and all that, and read it. And I notice too, a lot of conservatives are being censored. Even folks that may not have to agree with it all the time. Been a purge. I talked about that in my past shows. So this is why these certain corporate media, social media, these big mega corporate media sites that belly up to the state get incentives is unacceptable. I'll give you a few, just to an example. What's our alternative? We have to decentralize the social media, not the other way around. And I do use some of the things in here, like freedomsnetwork.com, minds.com, futurenet.club, Gab, which is gab.ai, oneway.com, buddylist.co are good, great starts. Just to give you a heads up. And there's one called real.video, which Mike Adams produced, which I'm intending to post on my shows or have on YouTube, transfer them to there as well. Anything can be possible, my friends. We don't need to bicker and call for help and be like those little dinkleberries out there. Want the government to protect us for everything, or have them do public utilities on the internet. It's totally hogwash. Why give them an inch while they want to take multiple miles? That's how these individuals think. And that is a damn fact. Prove me wrong. So I'm going to be doing, I am going to put some of those links on there so you can folks make your own judgment. And that'll be pretty cool. So decentralization is the key. They need us more we need them. Remember that. And that's why some of these big sites, I throw my information in there, but I'm not going to belly up. Because I can do that. That's why. Without us, they're nothing, my friends. That's why I know many conservatives started just taking off their Facebook pages and Twitter, and stocks plummet. Get them where it hurts. And that's good. It can be done again and again and again. So, always think before you speak. and don't rely on Washington, D.C. to solve our problems. Alright, my friends, I'll be right back, so stay tuned. Woo, alright, so next I'm going to be checking out here. Okay, from Mike Snyder's website, and that actually is posted on Freedom Outpost. So this one's here. Number of Americans living in their vehicles explodes as the middle class continues to disappear. If the U.S. economy is really doing so well, why is homelessness rising so rapidly? As the gap between the rich and the poor continues to increase, the middle class is steadily eroding. In fact, I recently gave my readers 15 signs that the middle class in America is being systematically destroyed. More Americans have fallen out of the middle class and into poverty with each passing day. This is one of the big reasons why numbers of homeless is surging. For example, the number of people living on the street in LA has shot up 75% over the last 6 years. But of course, LA from alone. It's pretty damn rude. I will continue on here. So, and what to say as well? Just a signal bust here, but that's okay. But of course, LA is far from alone. Other major cities on the West Coast are facing similar problems, and that includes Seattle. It turns out the Emerald City has seen a 46% in the rise number of people sleeping in their vehicles in just the past year. The number of people who live in their vehicles because they can't find affordable housing is on the rise, even though the practice is illegal. Though the practice is illegal in many U.S. cities. Hey, see? Isn't that great? Government knows best. The number of people residing in campers and other vehicles has, surged in 46% over the past year. A recent homeless census in Seattle, Kings County, Washington found the problem is exploiting cities with expensive housing markets, including LA, Los Angeles, Portland, and San Francisco, according to Government Magazine. San Francisco is insane. I've been reading stuff about that from multiple sites, including Truth Out is really saying the same thing about the issues, how big the issue is in that city. It was just a real shame. Amazon, Microsoft, and other big tech companies are in the Seattle area. It is a region that's supposedly prospering, and yet this is going on. Sadly, it isn't just major urban areas that are seeing more people sleeping in their vehicles. Over in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, mainly homeless sleep in their vehicles, even in the middle of winter. Stephen Monroe, managing of Children, Youth, and Family Services at Volunteers of America, Dakotas, tell a similar story. At least 25% for nonprofit Sioux Falls clients have lived in their vehicles at some point, even during winters of sub-freezing temperatures. And many of our communities don't have formal shelter services. She said in an interview, it can lead to individuals resorting to living in their cars or other vehicles. It is time to admit that we have a problem. The number of homeless in this country is surging, and we need to start coming up with better solutions. But instead, many communities are simply passing laws that make it illegal for people to sleep in their vehicles. Yeah, because they're a bunch of lazy asses. I can say that. Excuse me, Mike Snyder. I'm not trying to bastardize your article, all right? A recent survey by the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, which tracks policies in 187 cities, found the number of prohibitions against vehicle residency has more than doubled during the last decade. Those laws aren't going to solve anything. At best, they will just encourage some of the homeless to go somewhere else. If our homelessness crisis is escalating this dramatically, while the economy is supposedly growing, how bad are things going to be once the next recession officially begins? We live at a time when the cost of living is soaring, but our paychecks are not. As a result, middle-class families are being squeezed like never before. A recent Market Watch article highlighted the plight of California history teacher Matt Berry and his wife Nicole. Berry's wife and Nicole teaches as well. They each earned $69,000. A combined salary not long ago was enough to afford a comfortable family life. But due to astronomical costs in this area, including real estate, a 1,500 square foot starter home costs at $680,000. Driving for Uber was a necessity. Thank you, fiat money. Ain't that great? Teachers are killing themselves, Barry says in Elisa's Court's new book, Squeeze, While Our Families Can't Afford America. Echo out Tuesday. It shouldn't be having to drive Uber at 8 o'clock at night on a weekday. I just shut down from this mental row, grading papers between rides, thinking of what I could be doing instead of driving, like creating a curriculum. Home prices are completely out of control, but that bubble should soon burst. However, other elements of our cost of living are only to become even more painful. Health costs rise much faster than the rate of inflation every year. Food prices are becoming incredibly ridiculous, and the cost of college education is off the charts. According to author Elisa Court, in a living middle-class family is 30% more expensive than those 2 decades ago. Middle-class life is now 30% more expensive than it goes 20 years ago, Court writes, citing the cost of housing, education, healthcare, and childcare. In particular, in some cases, the cost of daily life over the last 20 years has doubled. And thanks to the trade wars, prices are going to start up more rapidly than we have seen in a very long time. On Tuesday, we learned that diaper and toilet paper prices are rising again. Procter & Gamble said on Tuesday that it's in the process of raising Pampers prices in North America by 4%. P&G also notified retailers this week that it would increase the average prices on Bounty, Charmin, and Puffs by 5%. P&G is raising prices because commodity and transportation cost pressures are intensifying. The hikes to Bounty and Charmin will not go into effect in late October, and Puffs will become more expensive beginning in early next year. I wish I had better news for you, but I don't. We're all going to have to work harder, smarter, and more efficiently, and we are definitely going to have to tighten our belts. Many middle-class families are relying in debt to get them from month to month, and consumer debt in the United States has surged to an all-time high. But eventually a day of reckoning comes, and we all understand that. The U.S. economy is not going to get better than it is right now, so it's time to be lean, mean, save machine, because it will be important to have a financial cushion for the hard times that are ahead of us. He's right, and it's not capitalism once again. You got the bureaucrats, you got government, and you got the banking system that knows neither smarter than all of us. We're in a fiat system, my friends. And you got these idiotic people and politicians trying to pass some resolutions that are pointless, useless, and downright protect. I can see it right there at the downtown library in downtown Fort Lauderdale. That's an example. People living in this like communities, all these tents are popping up everywhere. Pretty damn sick. Now, I'm not saying that all of them are lazy people. You got your folks that have their issues, they have their demons, like we all do. But how far is it going to go? Okay, at least Dan Trillis, I'll be critical of him at times, but at least he has some of that leniency. I will agree with him. I will respect him in those areas. But I'll tell you one thing, my friends. The gold standard will be a great start. That's why I supported HR 5404. Hopefully I got that correct. I'm just wondering if my congressman going to respond to me in that instead of dilly-dallying on his pathetic campaign. So that's one of the areas, my friends. We gotta stick together. Family is important right now. Leaving your security eggs in the hands of the state, you're gonna get rammed right in the rear end. And that's not a sexual turn on either. So think before you speak. That's one of the areas where I get pretty ticked off. Got a bunch of individuals believing. Let's punish these folks instead of giving them a hand. That's why I don't mind when I see people in the communities try to give food to the homeless and all that. Like I said, I'm not all bad people. You got others out there want to take advantage, and they try to go in some. I see them out there going inside pizza joints asking for money, and that's pretty damn rude. But not all of them are like that. So that's why we gotta not leave our security eggs in the hands of the government. We gotta look at ourselves and our people we care for. Then is how we get by. And yes, I admit I do live in a camper, but please don't feel sorry for me. I do work. I do take my showers. I get pretty clean now and then. Yeah, a little bit rough at times, but you know what? I'm still here. That's right. Don't pat me on the head, all right? Okay. Trying to see what's happening here with one of those areas. Let me just check this out. Yeah, I'm gonna do one more thing here. Cool. So yeah, so hopefully we just make it. You know, action speaks louder than words, babes. That's all I have to say. And we will survive. Like I said, the banksters were responsible for the Great Depression. You try to blame it on capitalism. Don't fall for the same garbage once again. Open free market form of capitalism. Okay, so do one more here. You know what? Yeah, I've decided. Yeah, I may just be right back. All right, cool. So we're gonna do one more here. I'm gonna be narrating, and of course, Max Slavo from FHTF plans.com. Like maybe it. But Freedom Outpost shared this article too. This here, foreigners give up their guns. In addition, the gun confiscating laws, the Florida law also raised the age to buy a rifle to 21. Establishments ready waiting period on all gun purchases. Let's let you know, folks, it's unconstitutional. Once again, had to be voted on by the people. So they did breach Article 12 of the Florida Constitution. Yay! We are the politicians. We don't need to honor our oath. Oath breachers, to be exact. All right, continue on here. More than 450 people in the state of Florida have been ordered to give up their guns by the state government under the new law signed by totalitarian Governor Rick Scott. That's good, totalitarian flip-flop Rick Scott. Come on, everyone, clap your hands. Woo-hoo. Flip-flop Rick Scott. That's right. The risk protection order aims to temporarily remove weapons from gun owners who have been deemed by a judge to possibly to be a threat to themselves or others. Possibly assume intent. I think so. Definitely violates Article 1, Section 9 of the Florida Constitution, due process. But remember, flip-flop Rick Scott and the scumbag cronies from both Democrats and Republicans who voted for the language of this bill have breached their oath of office under Article 2, Section 5 of our state constitution. But they don't care. They believe you are that pathetically stupid. And I will continue on here. In the aftermath of the shooting in Parkland School, Florida, Governor Rick Scott signed gun control bills into law just 3 weeks after 17 people were killed at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. That's right, fear is the greatest weapon. Reminds me of 9/11 with the Patriot Act, right? According to Fox News, roughly 200 firearms have been confiscated in the state since the law was enacted. Sergeant Jason Schmitterdorf of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office told WFTS-TV around 30,000 rounds of ammunition were also seized. Yeah, confiscated, seized. Yeah, you should wear a Maltese song button, buddy. In a five-term person team in the county that works solely of the risk protection law, reportedly has been filed 64 risk protection petitions in court. Broward County, according to news outlets, had filed 88 risk protection petitions since March. It is a constitutional right to bear arms when you're asking the court to deprive somebody of that right. We need to make sure that we are making good decisions, right decisions, and circumstances warrant it. Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri told the station in defense of the task force. The problem, however, is that every single one of the petitions filed under the risk protection order in Pinellas County had been granted by a judge, according to the report. Yeah, you were Adolf. You need to have an altar of Adolf Hitler in the courtroom, right? These demands to turn over or morally acquired property, even though there are no charges filed, are nothing short of the tactics employed by the Nazis. Obey the edicts of the government or else. That's right. Risk protection does nothing but assume a person might commit a crime or might possibly be a danger to themselves. I know that for a fact. I lived in Florida for 41 years. I can back that up. How is that any different than punishing people for thought crimes? America has just begun to slide down a slippery slope until people begin to stand up and push back. Guns will be taken out of the hands of the public. It doesn't take a historian to figure that out. What happens next? Exactly. Pro-enslavement. Flip-flopper Scott is a bigot, and all those sleaze bags in there love involuntary servitude. They want us all enslaved, including Gary Moratis and Senator Gary Farmer Jr. Florida began confiscating guns under the new law in April. The first gun seizure under the law occurred when Florida authorities stole an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon from an Army veteran. Jared Smith's gun was seized, and he refused to surrender it voluntarily. The Broward Sheriff's Office said at the time the officer also seized a .22 caliber rifle he owned, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, a bump stock, and numerous other weapons-related items. Yeah, who's the victim? Yeah, remember, Scott Israel's not my sheriff. Homeland Security, Uncle Tom himself, a federalized sheriff to be exact. He's just an example. In addition to confiscating guns, the Florida law also raised the age to buy a rifle to 21, which is unconstitutional because it has to be voted on by the people of Florida. But these guys don't read. And established rating period on all gun purchases. See, these guys are blatant illiterates, breach their oath of office under Article 2, Section 5 of the Florida Constitution. But here's another thing too: they violated Article 1, Section 2 of the same document, basic rights. Article 1, Section 9, due process, and if you read Article 1, Section 8 as well about the right to bear arms, only it says handguns. It has to be, the rifle's got to be in there as well. But remember, these idiots don't read. It's all out of fear because they're cowards. They're worried about their votes by cowardly people. And another thing you got to look at as well is their Article 12, which how amendments are done. These people are literacy. They're all going to be tossed out. That's why Moratis is not my representative. Gary Fisher is not my senator, and Flip-Flopper Scott is not my governor. Tic-tac-toe, 3 chumps in a row. Plain and simple. And this is how pathetic some of these people are. How come they want to blame the Second Amendment for this unheard shootings that occurred, and you got a bunch of cornballs, freeloading lazy asses, or RSO, Resource Security Officers, can't even do their own damn job. And remember, Florida's not, police aren't obligated to protect you under Florida Statute 768.28, Sovereign Immunity and Tort Liability Act, and Wong versus City of Miami. That decision occurred in 1970 at the Florida Supreme Court. So, I'm going to read some of the laws on a federal, state, and local level that failed. Okay? And you can use this a couple of times too. On some of these laws, you can use this on a state level as well. Firearm free zone. But, let's just give you some of the laws, which I did talk about it in the past. Here's one federal gun. Okay, the shooting suspect, Nicholas Cruz, was considered mentally defective by the courts. The Sun Sentinel journalist put that out there, and the Broward County Public Schools, it's got to take some time. Another joker, the superintendent who's Obama's bed buddy, I would say that allegedly. Here's what some of the federal laws they violate. Hasn't been complied. All right. 18 U.S. Section 9212 D4 prohibits anyone with a firearm and/or ammunition has been adjudicated as mentally defective or has been committed to any mental institution. Remember the NICS Improvement Act of 2007, which is H.R. 2640, that was signed by President Bush, stronger background check, which enacted because of the school shootings in Virginia Tech. How come it didn't work out for the shooting suspect Nicholas Cruz? Explain to me, the experts in Florida. Of course, Florida statutes 790.065. This law was signed around June 28, 2013 by no other than Flip-Flopper Scott, in which it prohibits anyone owning a firearm who was declared mentally defective. What happened there? Tallahassee? And of course, right here, 790, full section 790.0612A declares certain facilities to be a firearm-free zone. School administration buildings. Examine verse 10 of this statute. And how about the Broward County ordinance? Local options. Declares a 5-day working waiting period on all firearm purchases. Broward County ordinance 18-96. What all these laws have in common, they failed on preventing the Parkland shooting. Period. But they still want to punish you for their stupidity, for their negligence. That's why I call it treason. And it does Article 10, Section 12, if I'm correct, the Florida Constitution, on the militias. They're anti-militia as well. Because here's the one thing, they're supposed to be able-bodied men. Let me look it up right now. On it, able-bodied men, okay, for to do the job. To do the job when the governor calls them. But, and here's another thing too, if I'm correct, is if I'm correct, it is the National Guard are separate from militia. How come that's not being talked about, right? Because they don't want to believe you're that damn stupid. Want you to depend on them. They want you to be the number of their slaves. I said you're not. You are all beautiful individuals out there can work together, make things happen. That's the damn truth too. Let's see here, Article 10. I'm just looking at this right now. Excuse me if I have been a little bit of a delay. So I know it's a little bit internet thing here. Oh shoot! Gotta take it all the way down, right? I'm gonna head to the site here. Probably Ballotpedia would be better. But like I said, friends, cater to the pathetic and punish the productive. That's what they're doing. It's government. Ain't that great? Control of my mind. Bend over for state is patriotic. Exactly. That's what they want you to convince you. Drill it in your heads. So, yes, right here, Article 10, Section 2. Talking about the militia. Militia shall be composed of all able-bodied inhabitants of the state who have been declared intention to become citizens of the United States, and no person, because of religious creed or opinion, shall be exempt from military duty except under the conditions provided by law. And it's interesting there because it says here, B, organizing, equipping, housing, maintaining, and disciplining militia and safekeeping public arms may be provided for by law. And the governor shall appoint all commissioners or officers of the militia, including an adjutant general, who shall be chief of staff. The appointment of all general officers shall be subject to confirmation by the Senate. D, the qualifications of personnel and officers of the federally recognized National Guard, including the adjutant general, and the grounds of proceeding for the discipline and removal shall conform to the appropriate United States Army or regular Air Force regulations of usage. So it is separate. Okay? Not together. The National Guard is not the militia. The people, the citizens, residents of Florida are the militia. Able-bodied men want to teach them how to use they should have been using firearms. You're jeopardizing that as well. Plain and simple. The truth hurts, doesn't it? You bunch of illiterate cowards that you are. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you'll send me something that's interesting, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. You can hit me at all my media sites: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, OneWay.com, BuddyList.co, many others. Just search engine Loki Luck number 3 or Roman number 3 or the number 3 itself. Or plus, if you want to email me, Loki Luck number 3 at gmail.com, or if you want the Proton Mail account, LokiLuck03@protonmail.com. And that is all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.